Good evening, everyone. Oh, that's loud. I'm just not going to use the podium tonight because we have a wonderful, intimate crowd of listeners. Thank you so much. This is the very first event in our Spring Meet the Author series at Darien Library this year. My name is Erin Shea, and I'm the head of adult programming here at the library. I'd like to just quickly mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by our annual Friends of the Library campaign, so thank you for your continued support to make our programs like these and our collections available to the community. At Darien Library, we love supporting debut authors, especially ones as talented as tonight's guest. I first picked up the Sleepy Hollow Family Almanac because my colleague Jen Dayton recommended it to me, and she just said, "Read it, it's hilarious, one of the characters carries a gun." I'm really glad that I read everything she tells me to because this book was fantastic. It's very darkly hilarious, and I love books like that. It's narrated by Calvin, a grad school dropout who's moved back home to help his family cope with financial and medical hardship. His 17-year-old sister, Alyssa, has just found out she's pregnant. By the way, this happens in the very beginning of the book. I'm not giving you any spoilers. And his brother Chip is the type of guy who probably carries at least 3 Blackberries, one in a belt holster. His mother has fallen behind on bills in an attempt to pay for his father's medical expenses because he's currently on hiatus because he can't pilot anymore because he's sick. I thought that it would really be a great book for fans of the movie Little Miss Sunshine. I don't know if anyone's told you that yet. This darkly comedic debut novel is about family without all the fluffy hugs family stories so often include. In the words of a friend that I was recently discussing the book with, writing a book about a 20-something who has returned home to live with his family is nothing new, but what makes this book great is that the family all really loves and cares for one another, even though they can't stand each other. And because the novel came out only yesterday, I figured most of you may not have had a chance to read it, which I might have been wrong about since lots of your family members are here tonight. This is Chris's first event after the book came out. It came out yesterday. So for now, I would just like you to please join me in welcoming to Darien Library, Mr. Kris D'Agostino.
Thank you for having me. Speaking to microphones is always fun. Okay, I flagged a lot of different sections to read from, and now I don't think I want to read from any of them. It's always funny, I went to a bunch of readings when I was in grad school, but it always seemed the authors gave lengthy explanations for what they were about to read. I'm just going to read from a dinner table scene, so it's pretty self-explanatory. I think you'll get the gist of it. The gun is a single-action Colt 45, holds 6 bullets and can be used to play Russian roulette. He carries it around with him, keeps it tucked in the folds of his bathrobe or the billowing pockets of his plaid pajama pants. He believes something is going to happen. He has a mustache. He has always had a mustache. It's a pilot thing, an unspoken code they all follow in order to identify one another across bars in foreign hotels, in strange cities, in fog-shrouded hangars, in waiting rooms at the supermarket. Every time they blow their noses, they are reminded of who they are. It is the sort of solidarity I look for everywhere, but am without. "I missed you today," he says to me. "Missed me?" We were in the TV room, waiting for my mother to scream, "Dinner!" at the top of her lungs. "I went hiking up around Fawnstock," he says, fingering the mustache. "Your mother let me fire 5 shots into a sycamore. I thought of you. You would have had fun." "Is it entirely legal to fire your gun in a state park?" "I doubt it," he says. "The blowback is exhilarating. It has the smell of hot metal. It makes me happy. And your mother and that witch doctor Brigitte believe in happiness. They believe in its healing powers, as do I, but to a much lesser extent." My father unmutes the television as Law and Order returns from a commercial, and the room is filled with the sound of lawyers. I feel the presence of the paper S's hanging around us. When it first started, he took pictures with a digital camera to chronicle the loss of his hair, posting them on a bulletin board he'd hung on the door of the upstairs bathroom. Day 1 showed little, if any, development, but following the pictures and imagining them playing out like a flip book, By day 14, one could witness an interesting pattern forming around the crown of his head. Wrapped in his trademark bathrobe, not even bothering to dry off, he brings down clumps of hair from the shower to show us. He gathers the fallen curls in a cereal bowl and examines them. Defying all logic, the mustache survives. As things progress, he has turned to nature, to apocalyptic survival. He reads things like Wilderness Survival for the Modern Man and Prepared magazine, and The Great Outdoorsman. He has turned the garage into a bunker bursting with stockpiled bags of rice and arsenal bolt-action rifles. He has purchased multiple tents and sleeping bags, each designed for various weather conditions: lanterns, a drum of 87-octane gasoline, flashlights, snakebite anti-venom, collapsible pots for cooking in the wild, strike anywhere matches, a water filtration system. He has arranged everything carefully. He keeps inventory on a clipboard and makes daily inspections to ensure that in the event of an emergency, a flash flood, a mustard gas attack, or nuclear annihilation, he will be able to carry on. The cancer started on his spine. At dinner, an argument erupts between my siblings. The woman is a racist, Chip, short for Charles, says. He's holding a piece of sausage in his hand, waving it around. Because she made you buy a ticket, Alyssa asks. No, because I'm white and I need to get home and my monthly had just expired the day before and I didn't have time to get a new one, and she saw an opportunity to exert power over the little world of the commuter train where she thinks she's queen. Wally Zerkowski was there and he said you were acting like an asshole, I said. What's that guy doing on the train, Chip asks. He doesn't have a job. My brother stuffs a hunk of sausage into his mouth. He chews in a very precise manner. His teeth are whiter than cocaine thanks to 3 hours spent recently in the dentist chair. They sparkle when he talks. People can ride the train and not have jobs, I say. People do other things. I'm on that train every day, Chip continues, ignoring me. I work. Every day I see this woman. We have looked in each other's eyes at 7 in the morning. She knows me. It's not like I'm a scumbag trying to scam a free ride. It's because I'm white and I commute and I wear a suit. She resents that. I need to ride the train. It's a necessity. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy spending $163 on that train pass. It had just expired. I was going to buy a new one that night. Most people would let it slide. It's called courtesy, humanity, empathy. Not this woman. She's going to ask me to pay $10 for a ticket? Like you empathize with her position, Alyssa asks. She huffs. What position? That's her job, I say. It's her job to racially profile me? Chip throws up his hands, confused. Please don't tell anyone outside this family that you think you're being racially profiled, Alyssa says. Thank God Mrs. Stone and Mrs. Cunningham were there to defend me when she called the cops, Chip says with a look of concern. Oh, Mrs. Stone is such a wonderful person, our mother says suddenly, very loud. And so beautiful. She looks around the room. Those are rich, white, suburban housewives. You're talking about first world problems, Alyssa says. She impales some string beans on her fork, eats them. I feel bad for that poor train conductor. That's what I feel bad for. She's probably a single mother, and she has to put up with you every day. Why does she have to be a single mother, I ask? Because she's black? Look who's the racist now, Chip says. Please, Alyssa says. Please, our father says. She called the cops, Chip says. She used her little walkie-talkie to call the cops. She was going to have them throw me off the train. She called the cops because you refused to pay for a ticket, Alyssa says. If you get on the train, you have a ticket or you buy one. It's not optional. A platter of sausage, meatballs, and braciole, smothered with gravy, sits in the center of the table. It is surrounded by bowls of steamed vegetables. Why do you cook so much meat if Chip is the only one who eats it, I ask. Your father likes the smell, our mother says. No, I don't, our father says. I like the smell of gunpowder and mesquite chips and emergency blankets, that sort of thing. I'm going to write a letter to Metro North, that's what I'm going to do, Chip says. Maybe you should, our mother says. Reverse discrimination, Chip says. It happens all the time. I would like everyone to stop talking about the incident on the train, our father says. I tire of hearing about it. He reaches across the table and jabs at a sausage. James, our mother says. He drops the meat and returns to his broccoli, his spinach. His mustache twitches. For a moment, no one says anything. I take a sip of water. I don't know how I'm going to get that woman, Chip says. Get her what? I ask. You are such an asshole, Alyssa says. Reverse discrimination? What a joke. My father digs into the folds of his bathrobe. His hand emerges gripping the gun. Very casually, he places it on the table and looks around the dining room at us all. We look at the gun. I tire of the train story, he says slowly. The words hang there. Once he rode a camel and saw the pyramids. If that's loaded, our mother says, I'm going to be really pissed. My mother is mostly a mild-mannered woman. However, on occasion, owing to some highly capricious Italian lineage, she has been known to fly off the handle, as my father likes to put it. I watch her stare at the gun. I wonder if this is one of those times. After dinner, I smoke a joint in the third floor bathroom, blow the smoke out the window. I get my daily dose of internet porn. My room is sparse. One wall of shelving houses my record collection. Shelves on the second wall are filled with books, half of which I have never read. There are lots of posters. I fall asleep. I dream that the molecules of my body become unhinged and drift apart, scattered by the wind, and because of this, in my dream, I am unable to go to work. I think that's maybe it.
Okay, so I'm no Barbara Walters or anything, but I'm going to interview you. Okay, so my first question is, I heard a rumor that your book is semi-autobiographical. And I just wanted to know. And I'm very interested, especially because both of your grandmas are here tonight. I'd like to know what they thought of the book and how much of it is indeed autobiographical, and if you meant to write a book like that or it just sort of came organically. I just asked you so many questions.
No, it's okay. They're all wrapped up in one big question. Yes, I meant to write it. I don't know what my grandmothers think about it, though. I know what most people think about it. Grandma number one in the blue there lectured me on the way up here in the car. It was just me and her. We had a very nice drive up here, and she says that in book number 2 I have to write an apology to her at the back of it, which I can do.
You can dedicate that to her.
I can. Grandma number 1, grandma number 2, I don't know what she thinks about it. She's also not in it.
I'm just very proud of you, and I love this book.
Wonderful.
You can do no wrong.
But it was intentionally, I mean, there is a lot of it that is based on real stuff. The groundwork of it is based on real stuff. But then there's a lot, obviously, that isn't real. My brother, I have 2 younger brothers, but my brother, who is the older brother in the book, is based on, he said something very funny after he read it, and it was that all of the bad things that happen in it are true, and all of the good things that happen I made up. But yeah, I started writing this when I was in grad school, a few years back now, and I had 2 ideas for what I wanted to write, for the novel that I wanted to write, one of which was this, and one of which was completely different, something based on some bank robbers in LA, an article about bank robbers that I had read in Rolling Stone. And,
that one could be dedicated to you.
I can dedicate that one to you, Grandma. And I remember telling my father about both ideas and him actively dissuading me from writing this one, and that was sort of when I realized probably that was the better one to pursue. It also seemed at the time to be the only thing I could really write about. I mean, the stuff that was going on was happening then. That's what was happening. You know, I mean, the stuff with the father being sick, not the living at home that happened much earlier. So yeah, it was definitely a conscious decision though to make it semi-autobiographical.
Okay. That brings me to my next question, which is, I'm always curious to know about debut novelists, what their process was in writing a book and what it was like getting it sold and having it published, and how do you feel now? It's the day after it came out.
It feels very good the day after it came out. I mean, you know, with a book like mine, it will probably, I mean, if anything happens and people read the book and it catches on, it will be a slower thing, just because it's my first book and no one knows who I am. But and that's the way that it works with books. I mean, Algonquin does a really good job of, you know, in the indie bookstores and independent bookstores getting people interested in it. So it will be a slow build, which is nice and can ultimately pay off. But what was the question? The publication process?
What was the writing process like?
The writing process was, when I got into grad school, I remember, I mean, I knew that I wanted to write a novel. I felt like in the 2 years that I would be there, if I'd left, and I remember telling my friend Tim this before I started school, that if I didn't finish a book while I was there, that he could tell me that I failed at grad school. And I knew that I wanted to do that and not graduate with a collection of short stories. And so but the writing process of it itself was very unscripted in the sense that I didn't have an outline, and it came back to sort of bite me in the ass later because I had to, in the editing process before selling it, I really had to go back and give it a semblance of structure, which I wanted to avoid like a very traditional plot of any kind. I mean, there's not much of a plot. But I had to go back and put in some of that. So the writing process was me just writing, and then I would write a chapter, and then I would be like, okay, what is the next chapter? And I didn't really outline it, and I probably should have, which I am doing extensively, maybe overboard for my next book. But I love just working. I try to write every day, no matter what came of it. Often I would scrap what I wrote for that day, but writing, a lot of late night writing, because I was in grad school and I was working at the time too, so the only time I had would seem to be like midnight to 2 a.m. I don't write from midnight to 2 a.m. anymore, but it seemed to be a lot of late night writing, yeah.
That's interesting that you say you weren't sure of the structure when you first started writing it, because whenever I describe this book to someone, I feel like it sounds so depressing. I say like, well...
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's very funny, and it's also hopeful. It's not... I'm always like, well, the father's out of work. They're behind on their mortgage. But it's really great and hopeful, and it'll make you feel good. And I have a lot of trouble describing it in that way. So I'm wondering if when you started writing the book, if you knew how you were going to end it, if you wanted it to be a hopeful book, or that just sort of came while you were writing it.
I knew how I wanted to end it before I started writing it.
Oh, okay.
And I did want to have a certain, I wanted to bring it to the most, I like things that end sad, hopeful, if that makes any sense. And I also don't like, not that you asked this question, but, and I tend to get in these arguments a lot with people about art, movies and books. The word depressing as an evaluative statement about a movie. Like that, just because it's depressing, then it's bad. Or I don't want to watch a depressing movie. I feel like it's not really a comment on whether the art is good or bad. So you can definitely, there are some things that are depressing about it, but I feel like if you're actually reading it and taking what's going on, that it is, like you say, it is pretty hopeful. I mean, I think that these people come across as loving one another.
Oh, definitely.
And
it reminded me of my family, which is scary.
Hopefully it reminds people of all family. I mean, I feel like family is such a loaded word, and people do funny. I mean, family is just funny, whoever you are. And then there's people who go out of their way to divorce themselves from their family, which to me is takes just as much energy as being close to your family. You can't get away from it no matter what you do, because even if you don't have anything to do with them or don't have a family, it's all just there. It's extreme, if you're going to that extreme. So hopefully it reminds people of their families, because I think that idea of family is sort of universal. People can identify with it.
Well, I'll let you know that I added it to my Goodreads list, and my older brother marked it as to read. So I've already got my family reading it.
Yeah, there's some to reads. Everyone has to tell them to go review it or give it.
I reviewed it.
Oh yeah?
Nice.
My brother reviewed it too.
Nice.
I paid him $5.
My next question is, so your book's really a family saga, and something I enjoyed about it is that, like we said, the family seems to really love each other and care for each other. Were you influenced by any families in popular culture, like literature or television or movies, when you were writing this?
I don't know about families. I've been trying to think about what families from popular culture or movies or literature that I like, and I can't think of any families, but I know that I was a huge fan of What's Eating Gilbert Grape when I was in college. I really like that book. And he's 20-something years old, which I always thought was funny, because me being 24 was much weirder than when I was the coming of age years. I also really like You Can Count on Me, It's a movie with Laura Linney and Mark Ruffalo. They're brothers and sisters. It's amazing. And they play their brother or sister. Their parents have died when they were 8 years old in a car crash. So they've basically grown up just with each other to rely on, and he's sort of the like slacker, screw up brother who's always coming around every 3 years to ask her for money, and she's like the stable she's a single mom, but she's like got her act together, and it's sort of like it operates like a family drama comedy kind of thing, but there's no parents and there's no family, but they're definitely a tight family unit, and she has a kid, and that sort of the way that movie felt to me is something that I wanted to try to get across, in the way that this book feels. So that's kind of like a family that I was really into, but I can't really think of any families that I...
So maybe it was just mostly real life that influenced
yeah, real life is what I wanted to try to capture. Real life is fun enough, yeah.
If you could give Cal, who is the narrator in the book, some advice, what would you give him?
If I knew the answer to that, I would probably be answering some questions of my own life. I don't know what I would tell him. It doesn't last. I think that's one of the things that I wanted to get across, is that like it's very hard to be in the moment anytime. And if you think things are, he seems to be in a place where he thinks things are really bad for him and he needs to get out of there or find something better or whatever is next. And he thinks that he's going to be stuck there forever. And I think, it's good to step back sometimes and realize that you're not. Something's gonna happen, he's gonna grow up or, move out or whatever it is he thinks he needs to do. That's gonna happen at some point, You might as well enjoy the time you have with people.
What's your next book about? You just mentioned it, so now I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, it's a science fiction book.
Oh, cool.
If I try to explain it to you, you'll think I'm a lunatic. But
please
it's
explain.
going really well. It's very long.
Oh, okay.
Right now it's 600 pages long, so I'm in the process of chopping it. Don't worry, it's going to be much shorter. I've been told it's very hard to sell a 600-page book, so I'm hoping to get it down to like 400 pages. But it's like a Children of Men style.
Oh, okay.
Sci-fi. What if the world was like this? Dystopian.
Dystopias are very popular right now.
I know, that's another thing, is I'm not trying to jump on the dystopia bandwagon, but it seems like everybody's got their dystopia book that they're writing, but I don't know. It's good, but it's also a family-driven thing, if that makes sense. I mean, it's like got this whole weird premise of like an alternate world, but it's basically just about some farmers and their
cool.
and their kids. That was like the worst sell anyone gives.
That was quite an elevator pitch.
Let me give you the pitch again. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'd like to open it up to questions now.
First, I would like to ask, how did you come across the title, The Sleepy Hollow?
Which in the Darien newspaper was the Sleepy Hollow Family Attic. Which
really?
Yeah, which may be the second, which should be the title, because that's how I put all my family in the attic when they drive me.
If you wrote into a sci-fi book, I have a son who's a scientist who goes to all the sci-fi fairs. So when you've written it, you go to a sci-fi show and
sell the book.
Sell the book.
Yeah.
And thirdly, you're too young. It sounds like
Not that young.
Yes, you're too young. Archie Bunker, All in the Family sounds like your story.
Yeah. To the title, I will go to the sci-fi convention.
It's very good.
You can go to Comic-Con.
I could go to
It's
Comic-Con.
very good because my son goes and spends a fortune at the sci-fi fairs.
We'll go. He can Facebook me. We'll go to the Comic-Con when it comes.
You have to dress up, though.
No.
Oh, you don't have to.
But answering your question about the title, I actually, the title...
Yeah, that's I'm curious.
The title is actually a collaboration between my agent and my roommate, my ex-roommate. When I was writing the book, I called it Alyssa after the sister, and I knew that was a working title, and I was not prepared for how much everyone was going to hate that title.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, I didn't really either, and I tried to tell people that wasn't what it was going to be called, but I'm just like not good at coming up with titles. So then my roommate at the time worked at the bookstore across the street from me, where Stephanie works. And that's where I met my agent. And then we would all meet there on Friday afternoons when my roommate was working. And anyway, one Friday we were in there, we were brainstorming the title, and they wanted to call it something about a survival guide, family survival guide. That's how it started. And then it was this and this family survival guide or something. And then we just like kept going back and forth, and we came up with that. And I thought it was I think it's a pretty good title.
No, I like the title a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was that. Is there another question? We'll go to Tom. You can come.
It's not my cup of tea at all.
Yes, sir.
So you finished your book, you got it on disc or whatever, you've got the stack of paper. How do you sell it? What's the process? You mentioned you had an agent,
Yeah.
but how do you select the publisher? How do you present it?
I mean, at this day and age, I think whoever wants to buy it. I mean, I met my agent. I graduated in the spring of 2008, and then gave myself a year to find an agent, and then I got really lucky and met the guy who became my agent is now a really good friend of mine, in June of that year, in the bookstore. My roommate worked in the bookstore. I went in there one day, and he said, there's this agent, he works at Inkwell Management, which is like a big agency in the city. He said, this guy comes in, we should give him our books. And then he said that, and then this guy walked in the door, on cue. And then I went right over to him and was like, hey, I heard you work at Inkwell. I was like, what do you think about first lines of books? And he's like, they're really important. I was like, well, I got the best first line you're gonna hear all year. And then he was like, well, what is it? And I told him, and then he gave me his card. I gave him the book, and then I was away for 3 weeks, and he sent me an email saying he wanted me for drinks when I get back. He said they wanted to sign me on, and then the way publishing works these days is it's very hard to sell a book. Editors and publishing houses don't want to buy books. They don't really have the resources anymore to take on a fledgling writer and cultivate them. They want something that's 99% done that they can sell. So actually, most of the editing for this book was done by my agent and I. We sent it out in November of that year. We got a lot of, we really like this, buts. Then we rewrote it again, sent it out in April, and then I had a weird 2-week period where I had to leave work early and field phone calls in my apartment from editors at 10 different houses, and they all asked me the same questions. It was very bizarre. It was 2 weeks straight of that, and then we got a few offers, one from Algonquin, some from other pretty well-known houses, and then I just took a couple days to think about what would be the best, and it seemed like Algonquin was Algonquin only puts out 20 fiction titles a year, and Harvard Perennial puts out 300, so Algonquin goes out of their way to make sure all of their books do well, which seemed like a good place for me to be. That's somebody who didn't have any other books, So, and they've been really great, and they're also the last independent, but really well-known publishing house that hasn't been brought up by some other secret publishing house that's totally straight behind them, and they're fully independent.
The puppeteer.
But they have a really good reputation, both in and out of the literary world. That was a very long answer to your question.
I was just curious between that and say self-publishing, and I've been kicking around the idea of, was it Google Snaps?
Is that a way?
This is 5,000 to 30,000 words, self-published.
Yeah.
Keep 70%, they take 30%.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about self-publishing is just do it.
Just do it.
You don't have to really ask anybody.
Are you going to put yourself on Facebook? And there's a lot of authors that I read who have their own Facebook sites, and you put yourself on there, and they send me the emails, and I've already read the book mostly, but you can sell over Facebook if you have a book site. Will they let you do that or not?
I don't know. I really can't sell the book myself. I don't have any of them to sell. But
they go through the publisher.
Yeah.
You go to an author.
Yeah. No. I will.
You say you want to buy it. You tell her, and then she gives you where you buy it from.
Yeah. I have set up. I don't know whether I'm happy about this or not, but I do have a Facebook page for me as a writer, which you can if you're on Facebook. So, I mean, I just recently done it, and I'm starting, like, because I just felt like I was getting annoying on Facebook for all my friends, because they kept posting every review that happened or any mention that the book got. And then I just felt like I was annoying everybody. So then I made a Facebook page to do that with. So it's on there, I'm doing it.
You know, this is when I was meeting that I get a letter from a Canadian author on Facebook that says, my next book is this, and gives a little synopsis of it, not comments from other people.
Yeah.
And then she says, if you want to buy it, you go to so-and-so. It's not people's comments at all.
Oh.
Like every month I get one. She's a very prolific writer,
Mm.
and I get things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your publisher encourage you to make a Facebook page and make a Twitter? I'm just curious because I feel like so many authors have both of those things.
Yeah, they did. They sent me, I have a publicist who's a very nice lady.
Yes, I've interacted with her. She is very
Megan,
nice.
she's the
Yes.
best. I love her. She's getting married soon. They sent me, I had phone calls with them, and they sent me an email with like a list of places that I was supposed to sign up for. So I did. It was like Goodreads, and then 2 other places I can't even remember. And then they said that I should do a Facebook and at some point maybe a website. But I'm like sort of adverse to those things. Probably will at some point.
Yes.
Was your major in college to be a writer?
Yeah, the best major that I had to do the least amount of work to acquire it was literature. Yeah, I went to Fairfield University right up the road.
And that was,
And they had a dual BA in writing and literature, and I got that. It was a lot of fun, but I didn't really read as much as I should have when I was there. The writing part was great.
okay, a follow-up on that. You said Gilbert Grape, the movie or whatever, was your favorite.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Why?
Why is it my favorite?
Yeah.
Meaning that you don't like it, or?
Well, I thought it was depressing.
Oh,
There you go. I actually don't find that movie depressing.
Really?
Yeah.
It was the most
I love that
depressing
movie.
movie I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yes.
I can give you
Except for
a
Lemon Sisters.
I can give you a list of at least 5 movies that, like, if What's Eating Gilbert Grape is the most depressing movie you've seen, the 5 movies I give you, you'll be really depressed after.
But the priest?
I don't know. What I like about What's Eating Gilbert Grape is that it avoids. Well, first of all, it's a coming of age story about somebody who's far too old to be having coming of age story stuff happening to him. I like the coming of age genre, but I found high school to be not very interesting for me. I didn't have much in the way of life experience, and he is 24 or something like that. And it tackles family really well. He has a very strange family, stranger, I think, than the family in this book. And I can't really say much more without giving away what happens in that book. But I found it very funny. And I know what you mean about depressing, but I find that more just true to life. It's sad.
You were just a young little.
I think I was in high school when that book came out.
Well, you weren't that old.
When did that book come out?
A long time ago.
I think it came out in the mid-90s. We'll have to IMDb it.
Yeah. Google that.
I left my phone at home.
Oh.
Bad librarian.
Well, that's-
Well, I want to congratulate you on the publication of your first novel.
Thank you.
I look forward to reading other books by you.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone so much for coming tonight. Kris will be around to sign books if you purchase them. If you haven't purchased them, you should purchase one. So thank you so much for coming and have a great
Thanks for
day.
having me.